Great. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I would like to quickly show you a small video by ConnectTogether. So just give me a second, I'll put that on. All right, I hope you guys can see this.
Thank you for attending this Connect Together event. During this event, we have automatic closed captioning available. Please go to the bottom of the Zoom meeting, click Live Transcript, and then Show Subtitles to turn them on. Before we begin, we'd like to take a quick moment to let you know how you can join an opinion research panel made specifically for British Columbians living with disabilities.
For 25 years, the Disability Foundation has been fostering meaningful experiences for Canadians with disabilities through outdoor recreation, social connectedness, innovative adaptive devices, and more. Today we are asking, how has the pandemic affected you? Help strengthen decision makers' understanding of your needs and experiences by joining an online opinion research panel consisting solely of people with disabilities and their caregivers. Make a difference in your community today. The Disability Foundation. Reimagine what is possible.
Did you know? Young adults with disabilities have a harder time getting hired. Break down barriers by sharing your story. Take our survey.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to invite Ms. Carol to carry on with the presentation for today.
Great, thank you. Much appreciated. And I am happy to have the opportunity to present today. I'm just going to share my screen. It'll keep me focused and hopefully you guys interested. Let me know if you have any problems seeing that. All right. So I'm with Fraser Valley Brain Injury Association. Hopefully this will work. There we go. So I'm here today to talk a bit about brain injury and the programs and services that Fraser Valley Brain Injury Association offers. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions along the way if you'd like. So I'm not sure how much anybody knows about brain injury that's viewing us today, but for our purposes, injury to the brain, which is not hereditary, congenital, or degenerative, is the definition by which our organization provides services, as do most of the pretty much all the brain injury associations across BC and Canada. So there's two types of brain injuries that we work with, and both of them are covered under what we just call acquired brain injuries. So one category is traumatic brain injury and the other one is non-traumatic brain injury. And under traumatic brain injuries, those occur from some type of external force to the brain. That could be a car crash, a fall, child abuse such as shaken baby syndrome, domestic violence and assaults, recreational accidents, that could be bike riding, skiing, rollerblading, pedestrian crashes, getting hit by a car. Whiplash injuries can also be considered a traumatic brain injuries. So you might not actually have a physical blow to the head that you're aware of, but the motion of the head moving back and forth and the brain's moving inside your head can cause a brain injury. Penetrating head wounds such as gunshots and combat injuries such as explosive blasts. So those are considered traumatic brain injuries. And under the non-traumatic brain injuries, we consider those as anything that's not from an external force. So it could be from a stroke, an anoxia, hypoxic injury, which is basically lack of oxygen to the brain, from things like near drownings, carbon monoxide, choking, toxic exposures such as substance abuse. So under our definition, we do consider overdoses as part of that, or long-term exposure to alcohol abuse for many years can also cause brain injury. Seizures, epilepsy can cause brain injury, and vice versa. Brain injury can also result in epilepsy. Infectious diseases such as meningitis and encephalitis, drug overdoses I've mentioned, and tumors and surgeries for those tumors, radiation treatments can cause brain injuries as well. So a fairly wide range of conditions that can cause brain injury. We don't work with people that have Parkinson's or MS, more of the degenerative type of injuries. And feel free, if you have any questions on that, let me know. Oh, sorry, my screen is definitely a little blocked here. So we have a variety of different areas in which people can end up with risks of stroke, and these are the highest areas for brain injuries. Stroke over 65, near drownings for males 80%, children from 1 to 4 years, and drug use and non-fatal overdoses are increasing. Narcan availability, which is helping people survive, and the but lack of services for all of these age groups. And some risks for traumatic brain injuries occur a lot in children, and actually the young adults are the highest risk for brain injury, and particularly males between the ages of 15 to 24. Some of that risk-taking behavior that can cause that. So those are a lot of the people we see. On average, though, our clientele tend to be in their 40s or 50s to 60s, and they come from a variety of different causes. Primarily, about 50% come from car crashes, and the others are a mix. One of the higher areas of risk is also seniors for falls. That's a high cause of brain injury as well. And males at any age are just in general high at risk. What does a brain injury end up looking like? So we always say no two brain injuries are the same. They're unpredictable in their consequences. It depends a lot on exactly which parts of the brain are impaired by the injury. There can be multiple areas of brain that are damaged, and also a lot of other aspects come into play. So that could be psychological issues pre-injury. It can be cumulative effect of multiple brain injuries over years. So we have no idea what it's going to look like or how a person's going to respond, how it's going to impact them. It does affect who we are. The personality changes are common. The way we act, think, and feel can be changed. The effects of brain injury are complex, and they can also depend on severity. So you can have what's called a mild brain injury or concussion, and yet it can still have quite a significant impact on people's lives. And how do you recover from brain injury? That's complex. So healing is affected by everything. It can be affected by, lack of sleep, high stress, nutrition, when you were injured, in your age, genetics, previous injuries, as I mentioned. So it is unpredictable. So what does it look like? So there can be, depending on where the brain is injured, it can have physical effects. So there may be some paralysis, one side or the other, or both sides, depending on where the brain is injured. Spasticity, can have chronic pain and headaches, quite common for people to have headaches. Bowel and bladder control, fatigue is another huge impact for people. Weakness, loss of stamina. Can affect how your body regulates temperature. It depends again on where the brain is injured. Can affect your appetite, can cause seizure disorders, and you can have effects on balance and coordination, as well as sexual and menstrual changes. Sensory processing can be things like decreased or loss of hearing, visual problems, diminished sense of smell, loss of taste, ringing in your ears. A lot of people complain of what's called tinnitus, which is a humming kind of noise in your ears. vertigo, and sensitivity, either under or oversensitive to touch, light, sounds, and smells. So those are just some of the physical things that can happen. Doesn't mean all of them for every person. It can be one or two of these issues. It may be hardly any of them, and most of them might be more along the lines of cognitive problems that they're having. So one of the key areas of the brain is the frontal lobe, which is this big part in the front, well named. So that's part of the brain that's responsible for what we call executive functioning, which is pretty much, if you were looking at a company, this would be the boss area of the brain. So it's responsible for planning, organizing, managing your time, setting your goals, and self-monitoring to see how things are going, getting that feedback from, oh, that didn't go well, I should do some adjusting. This is also the area that's, helps with memory. It helps with all kinds of stuff. So it's a very important area. And it's also one of the areas that's most affected in a traumatic brain injury. It's very vulnerable. So people have problems with paying attention. They get distracted more easily. Can be focused on one thing, lack of flexible mental processing, sort of a different pathway of looking at things. They might get stuck in one kind of way of looking at things. Memory issues are probably one of the most common things we hear about from people with brain injuries as well. Just the ability to remember short-term information. Long-term often stays okay, so you will remember things from your past, but learning new things might be an issue. Speed of processing. So if you have to answer a question, that might be impaired a little bit. It could be a little slower because the brain takes time to understand what the question is, what the issue is, and then figure out a plan on how to move forward. And general confusion. A lot of people experience difficulties with speech and language, and that can depend on where the brain is injured. So they may have slurred speech, a variety of different speech and language disorders that are too many to name, unfortunately. Word finding can be very challenging. The rate of speech can be difficult. So they may speak too slowly and people finish their sentences for them, or they speak too quickly and they're hard to understand. Difficulties with reading and writing, difficulty being understood by other people and understanding other people. So those are some of the cognitive impairments. Overall, a diminished ability to learn and communicate can be the biggest challenge. Doesn't mean that people with brain injuries, their IQs don't go down. They're still maybe as intelligent as they were prior to the injury, but their ability to handle day-to-day, every normal communication and learning is challenged. The brain is fighting harder to do things that they normally would have done fairly simply. It's the best way to explain it. So this can, as you can imagine, result in some social emotional issues. So you might find people with brain injuries maybe a little more impulsive, frustrated, say things that maybe they weren't normally used to saying or wouldn't have normally done. They may be more dependent on people around them. So this can be a challenge for caregivers and loved ones who are used to a certain level of independence from that person. And now all of a sudden they're having to pick up more of those things that person in the household might have been doing. You may have difficulty understanding what people's facial expressions and sort of the nonverbal communication is all about. So they may misinterpret what they're seeing as either that person really wants me to be in their personal space and talking really close to their face and not understanding that the person is backing away because you're in the personal bubble, particularly important during COVID, unfortunately. So that can be a challenge for people. Relationships can change quite significantly with partners, spouses, friends, children, and maybe they were the caregiver in the relationship and now they're the ones needing care. So it puts quite a strain on families. Difficulty regulating emotions, and they may have outbursts or be more prone to depression, self-harm, and increased anxiety, mood swings, and difficulty sort of self-monitoring and being aware of how they're feeling. All right, so self-awareness is one of the biggest challenges for people after brain injury initially, especially the first 6 months. There's tendency for the brain to psychologically protect a person from being totally aware of how their brain injury has impacted them. So they may feel like they are fine, they're doing okay. Why are people around me complaining about things? I don't get it. So it can take some time for people to become more aware of their issues that have come from brain injury. And also that brings with it, that self-awareness can bring some of that depression and psychological difficulties as you're trying to adjust to the changes after brain injury. So why is brain injury so important for people to understand? It can have a huge impact on health and social issues. So some of the research coming out over the last, I'd say about 5 years has been pretty profound. It's not stuff that in the brain injury community, if you've been working in it a long time or if you've lived with it, none of this is surprising to us. But what we've been hearing more with the research is that a number of homeless individuals live with brain injury, and a lot of them were injured prior to becoming homeless. So this first statistic with 53% of homeless individuals, this was based in out of Toronto. So a big study of the homeless population in Toronto, revealing 53% of the people on the streets live with brain injury, and the majority of those were injured before they became homeless. Many children have an undiagnosed brain injury that can affect their learning abilities, and a lot of times they can get misdiagnosed as having other issues that aren't related to maybe a fall when they were a 2-year-old where they were unconscious for a period of time. So they can get misdiagnosed. After brain injury, people are 7 times more likely to develop mental illness. So that can be significant depression. Sometimes it can lead to schizophrenia and other types of more psychiatric, higher level psychiatric issues. And brain injury also can lead people to be at higher risk of suicide and early death. And First Nations people are also represented in brain injury quite a bit higher than regular population of people that aren't First Nations, and are also overrepresented in the criminal justice system, which we're also becoming more aware of the high number of people in the institutions that are actually brain injured, quite significantly high numbers. Anywhere from 70 to 85% is an estimate of how many people with brain injuries are actually part of the prison populations. So how do we help people with brain injuries? How do we support people that have gone through this? A key area, and this is part of what we do, is education, helping people understand what brain injury is, how it impacts on people, so that they can maintain those social and support networks. So families, friends, social groups, activity-based groups, those are key in helping people not be isolated and alone going through this. Self-care, so we do a lot in Fraser Valley, brain injury, with nutrition, awareness of how to manage your stress, how to monitor your sleep, how to be active, how to look out for yourself with brain injuries. So that all helps with recovery. Mental health support, so that can range from yoga, that could be professional supports through counselors, psychiatry, teaching mindfulness practices, a variety of different things, from formal to more informal. And really helping people learn how to adapt to their brain injury. So the challenging part for a person with a brain injury is understanding there's only so much that the brain can recover at a certain pace. So it takes time for the brain. And we've learned over the years that there's something called neuroplasticity. So the brain does heal to some degree, but it may never return to that pre-injury level of function. So part of the way that we help people with brain injuries is helping them learn how to adapt. So it might be, how do you use your Google Home to set reminders for yourself? How do you use online calendars, or some people like paper calendars? I still use a day timer. I still write my notes. I use Post-it notes too. So whatever works for that person to help them function without the stress of, oh no, I've missed an appointment, or I burnt lunch, or I forgot to pick up my child from daycare, those types of things. So we help people learn how to adapt and create sort of an external brain. I don't know if that's the right terminology for it, But really, sometimes all of us need a little extra help to function, and we don't all need to just do it up here. Sometimes we need other things to help us remember to do things. Helping them to be in healthy environments. So people around them that support them and love them, care for them, whether that's a peer support network, if it's their family that just needs a little extra help once in a while to remind themselves of what brain injury is and how it affects their person. Helping people alter their expectations of themselves. They tend to be hard on themselves and want to really, I just want to go back to where it was. And, sometimes it's not going to get there that easily. We need to help ourselves along by using tools. Lots of practice, repetition, and we also try and incorporate a lot of smiles and laughter in the programs that we do, because really ultimately we want people to be happy to be there, even though it's sucky that they're there. So a lot of the community brain injury associations across the province, there's 12 of them right now. So that's one of the big key things that we do, is help build a network of supports and friendships for people, with people. So where did we come from? So in 1998, we were a tiny support group in Chilliwack, run by a very strong family advocate in the community, John Simpson. So he was ICBC rehab manager, and he really had a heart for people with brain injuries and their family members. So he started a support group out in Chilliwack, and then that evolved into the Fraser Valley Brain Injury in 1998. I was their first staff person. I'm still here. And we've grown a little bit. So we offer a few more programs than just me at my kitchen table. Although ironically, I'm back in my office again, at home. Oh dear. So we do have an office in Abbotsford, a main office. We also have a team of case managers and program managers and facilitators. We cover from Langley out to Boston Bar. So we have a drop-in program in Hope. We have a drop-in program in Chilliwack, and one here in Abbotsford. Two of them we subcontract to a company. It's a society called Communitas. We offer a variety of different programs, and they can change a lot depending on what the needs are, what people's interests are. So right now we're offering one-to-one case management support. So we do that all the time. That's one of our basic programs. So when a person contacts us, the first person that they will see or talk to is a case manager. We have programs for children in the summertime. So we offer a summer art camp, and actually now it's expanded thanks to COVID again to a summer art program. And we provide Zoom art classes for kids. We provide a teacher that does some biology classes throughout the summer, some extra tutoring, and a 1 week in person if we're lucky. So far we've been lucky and been able to do that out in Chilliwack at the Blue Heron Reserve for 7 or 8 children. Doesn't all have to be kids with brain injuries. It can be kids that have a sibling or a parent with a brain injury as well. We provide a corrections program, health and wellness activities, which I'll talk a bit more about, and we do public awareness and education as well. Slow me down if I'm talking too fast. In order to attend any of our programs, you do need to provide proof of a diagnosis of an acquired brain injury. So that needs to be confirmed by a physician and through medical or rehabilitation documentation. So that is more than just a note from your doctor saying, so-and-so says they have a brain injury. It actually, we do require written proof. So that could be through MRIs or CT scans, a neurologist report, a neuropsych report, physiatrist report. And sometimes if it's kind of vague, then we would look for ambulance reports or emergency room admissions or notes from the hospital. A variety of different things could work to suit this requirement. Anybody can refer to us. So if you have a brain injury yourself, you can contact us. Family members, rehabilitation team, the hospitals, your physician, anybody can contact us for referral. And then again, we need the diagnosis, proof of injury. Any questions on all that? Right. Let me know if there are, because I can't see my chat. So, okay, so programs and services, to get into a little bit more detail about our programs. So I mentioned our drop-in centers. So these, obviously this was pre-COVID. So they are social recreation programs in Abbotsford and Chilliwack, and then we have a smaller group out in Hope. So those are in person normally. Right now they're offered over Zoom and or out at the, the park or wherever we can meet safely under public health guidelines. So they offer social networking opportunities, also volunteer opportunities, skills development. So it's not simply just sitting and having coffee all the time, although that can be fun too, and we do that. During non-COVID times, we have usually a meal once a week at each of those programs and special events. And this was the summer Young at Arts program that I had mentioned. Little goober, he's so cute. We have some support with employment, not a specific employment program right now, but we do offer a little bit of support with resume building, job searching, and support with employers if needed. And we also have some training dollars for food safe and first aid training for people who are interested in taking that. And that's been helpful for a lot of people. We offer life skills, which is more on the hands-on day-to-day activities. So more instead of the high-level case management, which might be helping people, get their Canada Pension disability. This would be more the one-to-one. So if you needed help with budgeting, how to manage to remember to pay my bills each month, or how to do some simple recipes, this would be the life skills work. We also include under that the writer's bullpen. So we have a number of people with brain injuries that submit work into our newsletter, which comes out every 2 months. So very talented writers that we have on board, poetry, we have cartoonists, lots of different people that provide some really cool stuff for our newsletter. And we do some of this one-to-one, but we can also do it as group. And we will do that right now over Zoom. We have a lot of Zoom groups. Support and skills groups, same thing. There might be some very specific things that we might do. Sometimes we'll hire somebody to come in with a specific skill to help teach, whatever people are interested in. Our programs are very client focused, so it really is based on need. And we try and identify sort of a group of people that have some common interests or would like to learn something specific, and then we'll build something around that for them. This is our case management program that I had mentioned. So these would be the people that a person would meet when they first come on board. So they'd be the ones that would be gathering with you the proof of brain injury. If you don't already have it, they would help you get that if it's available. And they would do an intake to find out the details of, are you getting the financial support that you're needing? Is there any pieces that missing that we can help you get? So maybe you're eligible for CPP disability, but you've never accessed that type of thing. PWD applications, we do all kinds of different ways of supporting people and identifying sort of what are the gaps. And listening to what the clients are interested in getting as well. Some people come and they just want to participate in one of our art programs. They still go through this process with the case manager. And sometimes we identify a lot more stuff that we can help with as well. And then we have a fairly active pay it forward health and wellness for brain injury programs. So this is a wide range of programs, covers a lot of things, as you can see. And the main goal with this program is to connect people with each other, support mental and physical health, and also support paying it forward. So not only are you taking care of yourself, but is there some kind of skills that you have that you can actually support other people? So a lot of people have come out of these programs not realizing that they still have a lot to offer the world, and they become volunteers for the community. They become volunteers for us. So our photography group is a really good example of this. It started out as a contractor who taught photography classes, and as the program was not able to be sustained financially, the members actually took it over And they did their own photography group with a little bit of support from our team, but they ran it for years, quite effectively, very well, all by themselves, and created some beautiful art cards and a variety of different things. So that, again, developed those skills of volunteerism, and some of them went on to return to work after that. So lots of different things under there, and this changes quite a lot, again, because of what people are interested in. So if we're offering a class on guitar and we don't have any guitarists, then we're not going to keep doing that. So guitar group kind of pops up and goes away depending on people's interests. So lots of different things under there. Art is a key piece of what we do. We are currently offering some small in-person art groups out in the Chilliwack area, hopefully some in the Abbotsford area, and we do offer them over Zoom as well. So it all depends on public health guidelines. They come and they go, but we are always offering art. We also offer a corrections liaison program. So this is an education series for inmates in, right now, Maple Ridge institution. So these are the provincial offenders that are in the institution themselves, in the men's section. So they are receiving 8-week programs that are called the Corrections Integrated Brain Injury Services Program. So it's a structured, curriculum-based program to teach people. It doesn't have to be a person with a brain injury necessarily, but to teach people about what a brain injury is, how it can affect them, how it ties into substance use, and tips on how to manage it. And a lot of people go into that program thinking they don't have brain injury, but maybe they just want to learn about it, and often come out identifying as, oh, okay, maybe that situation that I had when I was a teenager or that overdose might have caused some of these issues. So that runs about 4 times a year right now over Zoom, but normally would be done in person. We have family focus groups. So these are groups for caregivers of people with acquired brain injuries, and partners groups. So 2 separate ones. They're on a little hiatus right now because we're trying to recruit a new counselor to do them. So we had counselors running these groups by Zoom. We're working on getting new ones right now because they got too busy. So hopefully that will start either in November, maybe a brief return, or for sure in the new year, we'll be doing that again. And then we do a lot of community education when we can get out. It's been some interesting innovations in community education with a lot of drive-through events. So we participate with Chilliwack Safer Cities and Fire Department on their Safe Cities Day. I can't remember what it's called. Sorry. But we do a lot of events out in public if we can. Again, public health guidelines. Now we're doing a little bit more over the internet and Zoom and YouTube. Hopefully we'll be doing that in the near future. Just teaching the public about what a brain injury is, what it looks like, how to get support and help. Where do we find out more? So brain injury is more prevalent on the internet now. There's certainly a lot more in the last few years, especially with awareness around concussion in sports. So you can access a lot on the internet. We also, Fraser Valley Brain Injury itself, we do have a quite extensive brain injury information and resource package, which is 70 or 80 page document. It's pretty overwhelming. Available online on our website, which is www.fvbia.org. It's not very up to date right now because it was updated in May 2020. So there's some stuff in there that's probably still good, but there will be some links in there that probably need to be updated. It's on my to-do list. The other resource are, depending on where you are in the community, there are other brain injury societies across BC. So right now there's 12. So Fraser Valley Brain Injury is, like I say, located out in the valley from Langley to Boston Bar. So we include Mission. We do provide a little bit of support to Maple Ridge, but not case management specifically. So there's one in Penticton, Campbell River. There's Brain Trust is in Kelowna and serves Vernon. Comox, Prince George, West Kootenay. Well, actually, Kootenays is combined now, and they don't serve East Kootenay anymore. So Kootenay, BC Brain Injury Association, which is a provincial organization, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a sec. Vancouver Island, so Victoria, Bulkley Valley, Nanaimo. My list needs to be updated. And Northern Brain Injury. So those groups are similar to us. They're nonprofits. They offer a variety of different services. Then across Canada, this is just a list of a few of them. So there is a Brain Injury Association of Canada. They do have a resource database. I think it's fairly new. I haven't actually checked it out, but I think it just launched maybe in this last month. They do more of the national awareness, PR campaigns, Brain Injury Awareness Month, which is in June. And then there are usually brain injury associations in each province. So this isn't an extensive list by any means, but each province would have its own main one. And then they're usually across province. They're smaller groups. And Brainstreams.ca, which is BC Brain Injury's website, they have quite an extensive resource list, and they also have a wide range of videos and resources for people with brain injuries online. So those are very interesting, especially if you're trying to learn a bit more about firsthand experiences with brain injury. There's a lot of people on there who are sharing their stories. So that's a great resource. And then you can also contact us for any information. We are happy to take phone calls. We might not be able to assist without the proof of brain injury. You may not need us. Maybe you just have some questions, or we can send you some guidelines on where to go, who to contact in your area, but we're happy to do that. So our address is in Abbotsford, as I mentioned. We're not in the office as much as we used to be, but we are trying to get back in there. And you can always contact us by email, info@fvbia.org. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that we are able to. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if there's any questions. Let's see, there's people in the chat. I see no questions. So if there are none, then I guess I am done. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Carroll, for your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining. If you don't have any questions, we can go ahead and end the meeting here. All right. I think we're good. Have a good day. Thank you so much. Oh, there's a question by Sheena.
Oh, I see. Yes. I do not see Lower Mainland Brain Injury Association. How come? That's a good question. There used to be a Lower Mainland Brain Injury Association. Unfortunately, it folded, oh gosh, maybe 10 years ago now. And there really hasn't been one to kind of rise up and take its place. I think there's a Vancouver one that might have been based or is based out of the North Shore, but they're fairly small as far as I know right now. I'm not sure what they're offering, maybe a support group in Vancouver. There are a couple of support groups. Actually, there's several support groups throughout the Lower Mainland. So there's one that's based out of Maple Ridge. I think they're a society. So Maple Ridge Brain Injury Society, they're very tiny, but they do have a support group. There's the Tri-Cities Brain Injury Group. So that is, they're fairly large. I think there's usually 20 or 30 people when they used to meet in person. I think they're doing remote work, of course, again, just like the rest of us. And there is a Chinese speaking group in Vancouver and a regular like English speaking group in Vancouver as well. So if anybody's interested in that information, I can also pass that along to the facilitators of this organization, and they can send that out if that's a possibility. But I do have access to all that.
All right. Any other questions? Sheena says thank you.
No problem. I'm going to make myself a note right now. Anybody else?
All right. I think we're good to go. No other questions. Thank you so much, Miss Carol. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day, everyone.